Greetings. We meet in the new year of 2024 to discuss the nature of the times and what a time we have ahead. Now, some of you may be thinking, I hear this all the time from astrologers. There's always some big deal, always some change. No, we're going to talk about the what and why is 2024. And I'm not like all astrologers. For those who've tuned in before, you may know I'm not telling you what days to meditate, what days to call in your angels. We're talking about what and why is our experience on this planet. And for those of you who would like to know what and why is your personal experience, you'd like to have me take a look at your birth chart, we'll meet for our forthcoming Q&A Saturday, January 20th. That's the day Pluto and the Sun enters Aquarius. So we're going to celebrate that ingress as well. And since I know my major demographic here on YouTube is between age 2 and 12, this is going to be an unboxing video. I will be unboxing the 2024 astrology calendar that was just mailed to me. And if you would like to have a beautiful artistic visionary calendar featuring the work of Selena Jane, this is an advanced astrology calendar. Check out the link below. That's only going to be available through the forthcoming full moon. Now, let's get into it. There is such a significant building, investing, time to get down to business, and we are building up to something. As I mentioned, there's a significant shift happening this year. This will be particularly happening the months of February into March and April. But it's not like we have these black lines in the sand. This is one of the confusions around astrology is like, no, we're building these cycles every moment of every day. So the major cycle that's going to take place mid-February is in just a couple weeks, Pluto's going to leave Capricorn and enter into Aquarius. Now, a couple days ago, we just had Mars, the ruler of the moon's north node, enter Capricorn, is going to approach that Pluto. Then we've got Venus entering Capricorn at the end of this month, going to approach that Pluto. And then mid-February, all three of these planets begin new cycles at the first degree of Aquarius. And if we've ever had the signature of the spring lifting off, a dimensional shattering, a dimensional breakdown, new fundamental possibilities being introduced that defies our very logic of what is possible, that's what we're starting to get into in 2024. And this is going to herald the most progressive decades of our lifetimes. Perchance, Pluto in Aquarius, 2020s to 2030s into 2040s, this is going to be a rock and roll period here on planet Earth. So this month of January, we're actually finding ourselves in an in-between period. There also can be a huge degree of uncertainty we'll talk about. Although Mercury just stationed direct on January 1st, there's so many larger cycles at play that are still having loose ends being tied up. And this weekend, we're talking about the 6th and 7th. Moon's in Scorpio most of this weekend, ruled by Pluto at the anaretic degree. That's the last degree of Capricorn. So it's an intense weekend, and we can be looking at finalization, completion, loose ends that need to be wrapped up. And there is intensity going on in the world, going on in our lives. This is reflecting this remembering of a soul level where in the sign of Capricorn, what we're fundamentally dealing with is conditioning, expectations, obligations, rules, regulations. This is the way it is. And this can be coming from generation upon generation of our ancestors and how they did relationship or how they did love or how they did religion is going through this extreme examination. And there is a dissolving, there is a breakdown as the old needs to go. The old is crumbling. Now, the majority demographic I'm speaking to are first stage spiritual souls, and it is simply a matter of fact that we are confused in this day and age spiritually. I mean, the majority of people that I meet that are absolutely sold on their spirituality are even deeply confused, and there's reason for this. We understand all of these things in evolutionary astrology, not for the faint of heart. But the reason why we're so confused spiritually in this day and age is many of our souls has already been in spiritual consciousness through the age of Pisces, where we're going through experiences of being crucified or laying ourselves low for the family, and men have to go fight the wars and women have to sacrifice their identity, this, that, the other thing. It's deeply, deeply confusing. There are these pathologies of masochism. We're supposed to suffer. We're supposed to bleed out. We're supposed to sacrifice. This is actually the stuff that I'm suggesting we take a look at, because all of these mini cycles up in January are taking us into this deeper completion that can go back into lifetimes of past experience and be reflected in generations of our own connection to parents, their parents, etc. Now, there's also a highlighting relationships going through tremendous upheaval. Pluto going into Aquarius is leaving the square to the moon's nodes. The sun squares the moon's nodes January 10th. What this indicates is the halfway point in between eclipse seasons. The last solar eclipse was in Libra, roughly 3 months ago, and we've been hightailing through this remembering past dynamics in relationship. Yes, and there's a lot of experiential, but remembering old faces, old places. And I'm not speaking merely of intimate relationships, by the way. This isn't just me and significant other. I'm talking about how we are relating, period. Not just who, but how is going through this upheaval, this remembering. Now, roughly 3 months from now, we will have our forthcoming solar eclipse, April 8th, in Aries, on the exact degree of Chiron. And that's going to be a major initiation into independence, autonomy, freedom, separation, so much of physical, bodily, sexual themes being highlighted, again, largely through the reflection of relationship. So what we saw in December of 2023 was Venus squared Pluto, and we're beginning this upheaval in relationship. And now this next month, Venus is going to conjoin Ceres, the mother asteroid, square asteroid Juno, the partnership asteroid, go opposite to Vesta. Asteroid has so much to do with devotion and focus, and it's like we can really be getting pulled in different directions. And this Venus Ceres, particularly square to Juno, it really brings up this theme of caring for self versus caring for other. And this dials up our empathy, like we feel for the other. And we feel for their situation, but we've also got our own situation going on, right? And we've got limitation because we're born as people, not as gods. And that's part of the struggle here, right? That's, again, part of the spiritual confusion is how much of a masochist are we to believe that we can sacrifice infinitely forever? Okay, so these are some of the themes we're looking at. Venus squares Neptune on the 19th. So we're not totally certain. We're really in between this breaking down of the old, these loose ends that need to be tied, power dynamics, the unconscious, old devils, old demons, their old heads resurfacing. This whole transit of Pluto through Capricorn is intentionally bringing these things up. It's like when Jupiter and Saturn joined Pluto and Capricorn, we had Donald Trump as the president in office. Of course we did. There's no coincidences here. It was a mini dark age. He's an old emperor, and it's like, this is the old head rearing its ugly face for us to see and identify what is that old thing that needs to go. Okay, there's a breaking down of fundamental conditioning. Now, Jeffrey Green gives the most beautiful example between what we experience in the form of guilt, which is a Capricorn dynamic, guilt, depression, heaviness. This is a Saturn reality, and we evaluate. It's judgment, and we all need to have our own inner judge, discerning. Are we in integrity? Are we out of integrity? This is why I constantly in these videos remind us how important and good judgment is. Again, spiritual confusion is just wrought out there in the world at this time. It's like, what am I just going to repeat myself forever? And I'm going to let you know what my New Year's intention is for this year. I can't wait around for people anymore. I'm going to be working with those who are working with me, and that's really going to be it. Because I've got some things to do and say, and I know I'm going to be the only one doing and saying them. And by the way, I hope that you all will be saying the same things in just a few months if you're not already saying them. What is the thing that you're doing that nobody else can do? What is the work that only you can do? So to return to this theme of guilt and conditioning, and this is an example here, but this is what we can largely be taking a look at. And this brings us all the way back to the moment we were born in our infantile stages of life. That is the moment that conditioning starts to happen. And we all receive this in various ways, but many of us had children for parents, and those children for parents said, well, you're going to do life my way, and you're going to take care of me till the day I die, and you better, otherwise you're a bad boy or girl. And we don't even remember that, but we carry that in our unconscious, most of us, until the day that we die. So these are prison shackles that we're breaking out of. And by the way, something I also mention often in these videos is that in this day and age, the nuclear family generates dynamics that are often cult-like. And we want to be creating something that actually feels like the most missing and needed medicine, the zodiac sign of Cancer in today's day and age, which means families where we're safe to let loose, families where we're safe to be ourselves and to share our emotions. And there isn't this jump through this hoop or that hoop in order to get this or that type of thing. So we really have to look at guilt, what drives these actions, behaviors, so that way we're not needlessly self-sacrificing or being drained out, as I typically see the best people are needing to learn these lessons. They're constantly being drained out. They're constantly being used. And, all of the big heads taking all of the spotlight don't behave this way. And then they end up being the blind, leading the blind off of the cliff's edge. So we've got some radical spiritual ideas to be introducing. And I'm not sure if I'll be here in Asheville long term, if I'm going to be a part of the change, or if the change is going to be me leaving, because it's just, what are we just going to regurgitate the same things again and again and then light a candle for one another? There's no change. There's no effort. There's no transformation happening in this dressing up like one another. And it's just dressing up like clowns. I knew the New Age was bad before I moved into a place where the New Age is hot. And it's honestly worse than I thought it was. So, guilt. Jeffrey Green gives us this most beautiful, shining example of conditioned guilt, which was what I just gave an example of. Mom, dad says this or that, priest says this or that, teacher says this or that, and then we get a grade. Well, Jeffrey Green gives an example of what is natural guilt, which is also a real phenomenon. Sometimes we should feel guilty. It's directing us towards important things, such as when a new mother places her newborn infant child on the highway and the child gets hit by a car. That is Jeffrey Green's example of natural guilt, because it is inherent within the design of the creation itself, that the mother is going to protect her soft, defenseless child. That's set up in nature. So if mom puts child in the highway and we feel guilt, then that's what we can consider natural guilt. And that is the example that I like to use, because it's rather extreme. And I think that gives us a good place to evaluate ourselves and what's driving us now. Are we putting an infant child on the highway, or is this person 40, 50 years old? Because there's a big difference here. Yeah. And even if this person is your so-called husband or wife, or say that you have the position of being a mother or a father, what expectations and obligations go hand in hand with that? How is that maybe unnecessarily driving us to force ourselves into unnatural positions, and how that causes us to be drained, limited, depressed, anxious, angry? And then are we more or less capable parents, right? So I'm pretty sure that we get this at this point in time. We can see that we were born into a culture that's dying, a society that's dying, and a religion that's dying, honestly. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, here referring to the baby as a newborn baby Christ, who I don't think was born in December, by the way. But incredible transformation as we're entering the Aquarian age. And this is going to be heralded and introduced by Pluto's transit through Aquarius, which begins in 2 weeks. Folks, we are so close to this fundamental, earth-shattering transformation. I mean, if you've been going through hell for years, just hold out another 5 seconds. I mean, this is how close it is if we take the bird's eye view, big picture perspective. And it's not like we step into Aquarius and everything immediately turns into heaven and calms down. It's going to be extremely bumpy, extremely experimental, extremely mind-blowing. And there is so much creative potential in this. If we're clearing house, if we're tying up loose ends, it is undoubtedly to clear the space for the new to be brought in. And folks, Rasa Leela Healing is going to be going through an incredible transformation this next year. I look forward to seeing how that plays out. You'll have to keep tuning in and see how my face changes over the weeks and months to come. Now, I promised all my 10 to 12-year-olds out there an unboxing video. These are the hottest videos on YouTube, by the way. I would undoubtedly have 1 million subscribers if I were doing an unboxing of the new Rasa Leela Healing Calendar. That's right, folks. It's me setting my eyes on this gorgeous calendar for the first time. And look at this amazing artwork. Every month features a new and full moon painted by Selena Jane. And every new and full moon painting is correlated with the zodiac sign. So every month of this year, you have a visual depiction of the energy plus my uber advanced astrology calendar. This I made up in my software as well as in Photoshop. We've got all the major planets plus Chiron, the major asteroids, and we've got all of the planetary aspects plus some of the more advanced aspects that I'm teaching in my astrology school. Again, we'll be meeting for our forthcoming Q&A on January 20th. If you'd like me to take a look at your chart, what and why is your experience at this time? The Q&A also functions as a support group. Probably my favorite thing to offer every single month, as the excitement and the validation of astrology. You just really can't find something like this anywhere else. And again, I am super excited to see what unfolds through the rest of this year. If you're not following me on Instagram and you're on Instagram, I intend on doing a little bit more daily video posts. Hey, this is the astrology of the day and that type of thing to my Instagram stories. So if you're interested in receiving more astrology, be sure to check out my community. Be sure to check out the Instagram. And boy, oh boy, are we going to get the ball rolling this next year. Please do take care. I am wishing you the very, very best. Until next time.